You know it's this. Take a perk and a talk of that shit. Money swallowed like sis. Did it perfect in the kid. Got a billion who sang on my head. Look up better put on the road I just spent. I know we got $1 million. The devil that shit ain't not cheaper than again.
Hello and welcome back, fellow anime lovers, to MangaMuse. I am delighted to have you join us once again in the world of fanfiction and fantasy. This is the first part of What If Naruto Enters Totally Spies. Special note, this fanfic is written and a masterpiece of KFB Anime 87 on FANFICTIONnet. Do check and support the author too. Now smash the like, share and subscribe button for more. Also press the bell icon so that you never miss such great parts. Thanks for the introduction. Now let's dive into the world. A multicolor changing background began to spin around, the silhouettes of a male figure in a long jacket shifting to 3 young women. The locations shifting from New York City, Paris, Egypt, India, Hollywood, Japan, China. Kurama ran through the rooftops of Paris smiling as he held up a priceless gem in hand when he noticed Sam, Clover, and Alex running after him. He gives them a wink, causing Clover to swoon with hearts in her eyes, Alex to blush and Sam to glare with fire in her eyes as she ran faster, but Kurama jumped off the roof landing onto a orange getaway van with a fox hood ornament. Kurama jumped into the back of the van where Shikamaru stood at the computer screen and Lee at the wheel. The 3 shared a thumbs up as Kurama removed his mask revealing Naruto Uzumaki. The teens walked through the halls of Beverly Hills High when Naruto saw Sam, Clover and Alex walking by, waving and smiling at him, Clover lightly running her finger over his chest. The group sat in class, Naruto yawning at the lesson while the girls were doing their own thing, Clover typing on her cell, Sam taking notes, Alex holding up her hand. Suddenly the 3 girls pulled out their compacts and saw an image, a video from Jerry singling it was mission time. Naruto and his crew jumped into the van with Naruto donning his Kurama suit. He kicked away incoming enemies as they came at him. Naruto kicked away his enemies, pulling out a poe staff, katana, and dagger as he faced various opponents. Himawari smiled, hugging Matatabi, waving to the screen as Sam, Alex, and Clover appeared, gushing and hugging the girl, brushing their cheeks against her as Naruto looking on, sweat dropping. Naruto stands atop a building overlooking Beverly Hills. The girls stand over a building looking over Beverly Hills. Naruto smiled, waving at the girls, chasing after him Lee eating his cheeseburger with Shikamaru face palming. Naruto runs along the rooftops with Shikamaru in his van with Lee. Paris. It was nighttime in the city of light and love, and on a rooftop across from the Louvre Museum were 3 young women. These 3 young ladies were spies for the organization WHOOP, or the World Organization of Human Protection. One was a young woman with long red hair and green eyes. She was wearing a green skin-tight jumpsuit. This was Samantha Simpson, or Sam to her friends. The second young woman had tan skin and black hair in bob-cut style. She had brown eyes and was wearing a yellow skin-tight jumpsuit. This was Alexandria Kasoi, or Alex to her friends. The third and final young woman had her blonde hair in a fluffy, personalized bob cut that she called a coif bob. She had blue eyes and was also wearing a skin-tight jumpsuit. This one red. This was Clover Ewing. I can't believe Jerry is making us do a stakeout the day before we start college. When I could be down in the city of Paris with some French hunk, Clover said with an annoyed tone before she looked down at the city below and spotted a young man talking to a woman at a cafe. Focus, Clover. Jerry said this is an important mission, Sam said while she watched the museum with her high-tech binoculars. Yes, talk boys later, Alex said with a smile at her friend who huffed as she looked away from the city below. Why are we here again? I drafted off while Jerry was droning on about this mission since I was in the middle of applying my face mask when he hooped us away, Clover asked Sam. Sam rolled her eyes at this before she turned to look at her friend. We're here because a world-class thief has sent the Louvre a message that they plan to steal the world-class green puma donated to them by the Uchiha family, she said. A thief? Isn't this kinda below our pay grade? Clover asked with a raised eyebrow, as a thief didn't seem like a world-ending threat. We get paid? Alex asked curiously at Clover's words. According to Jerry, this thief is the latest in a line of thieves that have been active around the world, and it's always the same. They send a calling card telling them they plan on stealing from them and when they are gonna do it, Sam said as she took out her phone and showed them an image of what looked like a calling card with a symbol of a kitsune on it. My dear Louv, I will be stealing the prized green puma from you on the enclosed date. Best wishes, Kurama. Clover read from Sam's phone. Well, at least he's polite about it, Alex said as she looked at the phone. Polite or not, our job is to catch him and bring him in, Sam said as she returned to her binoculars and looked at the museum. Him? Is he cute? Clover asked curiously, now interested in this. Mo idea, he wears a hoodie and a mask, Sam said, not looking away from the museum. Does he work alone? Alex asked curiously. According to Jerry, he's known to have a tech guy and a driver/muscle, Sam said, still not looking away from the museum. Oh, he's like Lupin III with his own crew, Alex said with a smile. You are such a nerd, Clover said with a shake of her head at her friend. Alex just pouted at this while Sam continued to watch the museum. Suddenly Sam saw some activity on the rooftop and what looked like a figure jumping out the window of the museum and leaving the museum. There. Let's go, Spies. She yelled, making Alex and Clover get up and pull out what looked like hair dryers but had what looked like hooks hanging out on the end of them. They fired their grappling hooks and used them to swing after the figure. They soon caught up with the figure and dropped down towards him and surrounded him. The figure was a male. His outfit consisted of a black ankle-length tailcoat, a high-necked waistcoat with gold accents, cinched black pants, brown-black winkle pickers boots with taller heels and a pair of orange gloves. He was wearing what looked like a domino mask that covered his hair and face but showed he had blue eyes. The front of the mask was also styled to look like a kitsune. Well, hello, appealing. He smirked as he looked at each of the spies. Kurama, I'll assume, Alex said while in a battle-ready stance. Indeed I am, I'm flattered. Whoop sent some of their agents after me when I'm not so high on their wanted list, Kurama said with a bow of his head at the spies. We'll be taking that diamond back, please. Sam said, holding out her hand. I'd be more than happy to hand it over to 3 appealing ladies such as yourselves. Kurama said, causing Alex and Clover to blush slightly, but Sam wasn't the least bit fazed by his flattering. Perhaps we can find a nice quiet spot and discuss a deal. I know pretty good restaurants around here, he said with a charming tone. Sorry, I gave up, bad boys. Sam said as she charged at Kurama head-on, launching a kick at his head which he quickly caught. Wow, you've got some amazing legs. I bet you're a great dancer. The phantom thief smirked, further infuriating Sam, who quickly pulled her leg away just as Clover jumped up, diving at the male blonde. She threw several quick jabs at him but he easily avoided them. She threw a punch at him but he caught her by the wrist along with her other arm, pinning them behind her back. Kurama took them time to look at the struggling girl while admiring her impressive figure. Wow, I've gotta say, among your 2 friends you've definitely got the best figure, and what's that amazing perfume you're wearing? Kurama smirked, causing Clover to blush, letting out a giggle. Oh, you noticed that it's actually a new shampoo I've been trying out. It's supposed to keep my hair from getting dry. Clover said with a smile. Well, that's not necessary, you've got appealing golden hair. Kurama praised, further deepening the girl's blush. Oh, stop. Clover laughed, his words getting to her. Literally. Alex shouted as she jumped into the air, bringing down her leg at the pair. Kurama spun away, holding on to Clover's hand as if they were dancing in a ballroom, pulling her close to his chest, causing 2 pairs of blue eyes to gaze into each other, the world around Clover becoming hazed and sparkling as her cheeks were tinted blue, with Kurama smirking softly at her. Clover. Sam and Alex shouted, snapping her friend out of her romantic stupor. She bared her teeth, grabbing Kurama by the wrist and throwing him over her shoulder, sending him crashing to the floor, giving Alex the chance to pin him. Gotcha. Alex said as she pinned him down. Well, enjoy yourself. Kurama said, looking downward at Alex's chest. I certainly am, he said. Alex noticed where his eyes were looking and glared at him. Eyes up here, big boy. Alex said with an annoyed tone. That's fine, I just switch from one appealing pair to another. Kurama said as he looked into Alex's own yellow eyes. Before she could react, she was quickly flipped on her back with Naruto holding her to the ground. You know, I think I liked it better when you were on top. Kurama smirked, making Alex blush slightly as he leaned forward. Get off of her, you creep. Kurama jumped back as Sam kicked at him again, letting a flustered Alex get up, shaking her head as she ran to join her friends, the trio punching and kicking at the boy who evaded and blocked their hits. He swept under Alex's leg, causing her to tumble to the ground. He kicked Sam in the chest, sending skidding a good distance away. Clover grabbed threw down onto Alex. He flipped back, holding up the jewel, examining it for a brief minute before giving the ladies a bow. I very much enjoyed our little dance, girls, but my job's done and I've got a schedule to keep. Kurama said as he ran across the rooftops. Sam snarled as she got to her feet and chased after him. Come on guys, he's getting away. Sam shouted, with Clover and Alex closely following behind. Guys, I'm on my way. How soon can you meet up? Kurama said over a comlink in his ear. We're already at the rendezvous point, a bored-sounding voice sounded. Kurama smirked when he suddenly let out a yelp as a beam fired across from him. He looked over to see Sam, Alex, and Clover chasing after him with jetpacks armed with laser lipsticks. Laser lipsticks and jetpacks. Maybe I should be stealing from you lovely ladies, Kurama said with a smile as he ducked under Sam's next laser fire by sliding under some pipes as he ran towards the edge of the rooftop. Get back here. Sam yelled as Alex and Clover flew after Naruto, who jumped over the rooftop and landed on an orange van that was parked in the alleyway. It also had a fox hood ornament on the hood. Kurama quickly jumped through the passenger seat's open window before the van took off out of the alleyway. You won't get away. Alex yelled as they flew after the van. Yeah, I didn't get your number yet. Clover yelled out with a smile, getting an annoyed look from Sam. Suddenly the van sparked and pulsed and a small EMP wave went off and hit the girls, making their jetpacks spark before they shut down, causing the three spies to fall to the ground. Ow. Like what the heck? Sam yelled as she rubbed her head from her fall. Did Jerry give us the faulty gadgets this time? Alex asked as they all slowly got up. No, I think that thing short out all our stuff, Sam said with an annoyed look on her face at the fact that Kurama was ready for their gadgets. Wow, cute and clever, Clover said with a chuckle before she noticed Alex and Sam looking at her with annoyed looks. What? She asked as their eyebrows twitched. We gotta tell Jerry he got away, don't we? Alex said flatly. Knowing Jerry, he probably already knows and has a list of ways we could have done better, Sam said with a sigh as they all tried to use their communication compacts to call Jerry. With Kurama. Kurama sat in the passenger seat of the van and smiled as he removed his mask, revealing his blonde hair. Phew, that was awesome, Kurama said with a smile. You could have gotten away sooner if you weren't toying with those Whoop agents, Naruto, a bored-sounding voice said from the back of the van. Naruto looked into the back of the van and saw it was full of computer equipment, and sitting at the main computer was a young man with brown hair tied up in a spiky ponytail. This was Shikamaru Nara, the brains of the group. What's the point of having chasers if you can't have a little fun with them, Naruto said with a chuckle. Yeah, plus Naruto was on time, so lighten up, Shikamaru, the driver said with a grin as he drove the van. He had black hair and a bowl cut. This was Rock Lee, the driver/muscle of the group. You are so troublesome, Shikamaru said with an eye roll. You've been saying that since we met back in Ba-chan's orphanage, Naruto said with a grin at his friend. And you're still here, Lee added with a grin of his own. And you will keep hearing it. So did you get the goods? Shikamaru asked as he closed his laptop. Please, it was easy, Naruto said as he held out the green puma. The Uchiha crime family are gonna be mad that their charitable donation got lifted almost instantly by us, Lee said as he kept his eyes on the road. Then it's a night well done, Naruto said with a smile at his team. Can we get drive-through? I'm starving, Lee asked as he spotted a burger place coming up. We're in Paris and you want burgers? Shikamaru asked with a raised eyebrow at the driver. I'll take a 20-piece nugget meal, Naruto said with a smile at Lee. That's the spirit. What about you, Shikamaru? Lee asked as he pulled up into the drive-thru. Fish sandwich, Shikamaru said with a sigh of defeat. Moments later the van was parked on a hilltop overlooking the city. While the van was in civilian mode thanks to the tech Shikamaru had it equipped with, its civilian mode made the van look more beat down and it was now grey instead of orange and the fox hood ornament was gone. So what's the plan now? Lee asked before he took a bite of his burger. Well, first we sell this thing and after each of our cuts we drop of the rest at Ba-chan's, Naruto said as he held up the green puma. We haven't visited the orphanage in a while, Lee said with a smile as while they always kicked back some of the profit from their heists to the orphanage they all grew up and they didn't visit it often. I wonder how she's been, Naruto said with a smile as he looked up at the night sky. Probably still mad we stole the cookie jar as our first heist, Shikamaru said with the ghost of a smile on his face. Can't blame ourselves, she made some good cookies, Lee said as he smiled at the memory. You see, these three thieves were all raised in the same orphanage together. Thankfully it was a nice but poor one run by a nice but strict older woman named Tsunade Senju. Naruto had come from a family of secret thieves that went all the way back to the Warring States era of Japan. Every single Uzumaki thief had only stolen from other criminals, which of course made them plenty of enid on both sides of the law. Which of course led to what made Naruto a orphan in the first place. But that's a story for another time. Okay crew, finish up your food, we need to get on the road, we should be able to get to Japan within a week if we're lucky, Naruto said to his team. Assuming your whoop girlfriends don't try to get us before then, Shikamaru said as he finished his drink. Please, they are after Kurama, not Naruto Uzumaki, Naruto said as he grinned at Shikamaru. Exactly the point, Shikamaru said before looking at Naruto flatly as he threw one of his wrappers at him. Oi! That's abuse. Naruto yelled out dramatically at this. Lee shook his head and smiled at this as he started the van and drove off. A week later in Japan. It was mid-afternoon and the crew's van was parking in front of a massive mansion that sat on a hilltop that overlooked Kyoto, Japan. Few place looks as big as it did back then, Lee said as he parked the van. Looks better after we paid for expansions and repairs so the kids actually have their own rooms and a playground, Naruto said as he got out of the car and looked at the place and paused as he looked at a big sakura tree, reminiscing about how when he was a kid and how when he first arrived here he was sitting right there when Lee and Shikamaru went over to cheer him up. You thinking about how you fell out of that tree and broke your arm when you were 8? Shikamaru asked as he got out of the van. Ha ha ha, Naruto said with a sarcastic tone before he noticed a figure sitting under the tree he didn't notice while he was reminiscing. It was a young girl who looked to be no older than 6 years old. She had short dark blue hair and blue eyes and was carrying what looked like a stuffed tanuki doll as she ate some animal crackers. Looks like the little tyke likes our old spot, Lee said with a smile seeing the kid. Maybe we should say hi, Naruto said with a smile at his team as he didn't mind kids. Make it quick, you know how Tsunade is about us not announcing our presence, Shikamaru said as he passed a briefcase of money to Lee which was for the orphanage. She just doesn't want us to steal from her kitchen again, Naruto said with a snicker as he looked at Shikamaru and Lee. I still haven't forgiven you brats for doing that, a female voice bellowed out from behind Naruto making him jump in surprise. Behind him was an older woman with long blonde hair and twin pigtails. She also had a diamond mark on her forehead. This was Tsunade Senju, the den mother of the orphanage. And I still see you're as silent as a ghost, Ba-chan, Naruto said holding his chest before he ducked under a swing of Tsunade's fist. You may be grown but I can still kick you, but you brat. Tsunade yelled at Naruto with a glare. Who's the munchkin under our favorite tree? Shikamaru asked. Oh, that's Himawari, a newbie here at the orphanage, Tsunade said as she frowned as she looked at Himawari. Is she a troublemaker like us? Lee asked seeing her frown. Nah, kid's a little ray of sunshine, but she's been through 20 orphanages before she was sent here. For the life of me I have no idea why though, Tsunade said with a frown as they watched Himawari feed her tanuki doll a animal cracker before eating it herself. Naruto frowned at this as he watched Himawari for a few moments before he smiled a little. Shikamaru saw this and had a bad feeling about this. Naruto, if you're thinking about wanting to try the normal life thing out he was saying before he was cut off. Why not? We have been at it enough that I have enough money saved up that I can settle down a bit, Naruto said as he looked at Shikamaru. We're gonna give up heists? Lee asked surprised at this. Well, I didn't say that, but we would be more limited to stealing from the worst of criminals, Naruto said to Lee. You don't even have a home to take a kid back to, Shikamaru said with a shake of his head. So I can buy one, Naruto said with a shrug of his shoulders. Wait a minute, brat, you want to adopt a kid? Tsunade asked, raising her eyebrow at Naruto as she didn't expect this from Naruto's next visit. Yep, Naruto said with a smile at Tsunade. Tsunade looked at Naruto for a few moments before she sighed, fine brat, but you will keep her out of your adventures with these two, or so help me they will never find your body, she said with a glare at Naruto, as she knew while Naruto was a thief and a little reckless he had a heart of gold. Naruto nodded at this as he had no plans to put a kid in any danger. Lee, help me out here, Naruto needs to think this out first, Shikamaru was saying before he was cut off again. I'm gonna be an uncle. Lee yelled happily as he threw his arms in the air and smiled. Ugh, geez, alright fine, but only because someone has to be the responsible one amongst all this, Shikamaru said with a sigh. Hey, I'm plenty responsible, Naruto said with an offended look at his friend. Hitting on Whoop Spies is not responsible, Shikamaru said with a flat tone as he looked at Naruto. Oh geez, you have Whoop agents after you. What did you do, brat? Tsunade asked with a glare at Naruto. We stole from the Louvre Museum, Lee said with a smile. Well, at least you aim high, brat. Come on, let's get some paperwork filled out and you better have a place of residence picked out, Tsunade said as she led them inside. We should pick a place that we haven't stolen from yet, Naruto said as he followed. That's a short list, Shikamaru said as he had an eidetic memory of every place they stole from. Any place that's good to raise a kid? Naruto asked his friend. Beverly Hills is the best option you have, Shikamaru said after a few moments of thinking over all the options open to them. Beverly Hills, it's perfect, Naruto said with a grin on his face. Swimming pools. Movie stars. Lee said with a grin at this as they entered Tsunade's office. With Himawari. Himawari was walking toward Tsunade's office after one of the older kids had told her she wanted to see her. There's that weird kid again. Wonder why Miss Tsunade wants to see her. Is it snack time yet? Himawari held her head a little at this as she walked. Her head was hurting from all the thoughts she was hearing from all the other kids. That's right, this child is a telepath. Over half a year ago the facility she was being raised in was raided by Whoop agents and she took the chance to run off. Himawari walked into Tsunade's office and saw her talking to an older male adult with blonde hair who turned to look at her and smiled at her. She's even cuter up close, Naruto thought as he smiled at Himawari. So adorable. Lee thought as he and Shikamaru sat nearby. Himawari looked at Naruto curiously as she held her stuffed tanuki before she looked at Tsunade. You wanted to see me, Miss Tsunade? She asked curiously. Naruto and Lee snickered at Himawari's butchering of Tsunade's name before Tsunade glared at them, silencing them. Tsunade then looked at Himawari and smiled kindly at her. Yes, sweetheart, this nice young man wants to adopt you. Himawari's eyes widened at this before she looked at Naruto. Really? Himawari asked in surprise as Naruto approached her and got on one knee so he could look her in the eye. Yup, I was raised here and I saw you alone under the sakura tree like when I was a kid, so I decided to pay it forward and take care of you, Naruto said with a smirk. Yay! Himawari cheered before she hugged Naruto, making him laugh. It's official then, call me Otosan, Naruto said as he patted Himawari on the head. Are these your friends or your husbands? Himawari asked. Look at Lee and Shikamaru after nodding at Naruto. Tsunade burst out laughing at this while Shikamaru and Lee face planted at this. They are my friends, practically brothers though, Naruto said as he chuckled at her question. Unkais. Himawari said as she pointed at Lee and Shikamaru. That's my girl, Naruto said with a smile as he patted her on the head. Okay brat, I'll get the paperwork taken care of, Himawari. Why don't you take your new Otosan to your room and go pack your bag? Tsunade said to Himawari with a smile. Okay, Himawari said as she grabbed Naruto's arm and pulled him along with her. I'll take care of getting her a visa so we can get to the States. I already found Naruto a place for him and Himawari, Shikamaru said as he took out his laptop. What about us? Lee asked curiously. I got us a place close by, don't worry, Shikamaru said as he typed away at his laptop. Tsunade nodded at this as she filled out the paperwork to make the adoption official. A few days later. It had been a few days since Naruto had adopted Himawari and they were now all moved into a beach house in Beverly Hills, which was a few miles away from a collage. Lee and Shikamaru were all moved in a house a few blocks away that was connected to a garage where Shikamaru was running a repair business with Lee doing the grunt work. The beach. Himawari yelled with childish glee as she looked out the living room window. That's right, Hima, it's the beach. We'll be living here so we can visit the beach whenever we want, Naruto said with a smile as he placed a box in the kitchen, which was the last one after he had unpacked everything. I don't know how to swim, Himawari said with a sheepish tone before she frowned. Naruto frowned at this before he smiled. Well, that's okay, Hima, I'm sure we can find you a teacher. Now why don't you go look at your room upstairs, he asked as he still had some unpacking to do and was hoping her new room would be a good distraction. Okay, Otosan, Himawari said as she went upstairs. Naruto smiled at this, liking when she called him that before he got back to unpacking. Suddenly the door opened and Lee and Shikamaru walked in. Unkai, Lee and Shika are here. Lee yelled with a smile as he walked in carrying a grocery bag. Don't you knock? Naruto asked with a raised eyebrow. We have a key, Shikamaru said simply, as when he had paid for this place he had made sure each of them had a key. Where's the little munchkin? I brought the ingredients for spaghetti, Lee said with a smile as he put the grocery bag on the kitchen counter. She's upstairs looking at her new room, Naruto said as he helped Lee unpack the bag, deciding to help prepare the food. Well, we are all set with our repair business, put out an ad and everything, Shikamaru said as he sat down at the counter to talk. Good, I'm still looking into schools for Hima, Naruto said as he poured a pot of water on the stove while Lee started chopping vegetables for the sauce. Don't bother, I already found one, and yes, it's the best in Beverly Hills, Shikamaru said as he took out a slip of paper and handed it to Naruto. Eaten? Naruto asked with a raised eyebrow. I know it sounds like the kind of place we would usually hit, but they actually have a good reputation, plus they go all the way through grade 8, so if you can get her into it you are covered until high school, Shikamaru said as he handed Naruto some more information. What's it gonna cost to get her in? Lee asked as he cooked some meat on a frying pan. Depends how bad you want her to have the best educ dash, Shikamaru was saying before he was cut off. Whatever it takes, Naruto said firmly as he wanted his daughter to have every chance to succeed in life. So donate a building to the school, got it, Shikamaru said with a nod as he was really glad they had a big nest egg. Look at you being a dad, Lee said with a chuckle at Naruto and how he instantly decided to pay to get his daughter into a private school. You know me, Lee, I try in everything I do, Naruto said as he stirred the pasta as it cooked. God help you when she starts getting interested in boys, Shikamaru said with a flat tone. Before he ducked, avoiding a wooden spoon thrown by Naruto, who was glaring at him. Otosan, I'm hungry. Himawari yelled out as she came downstairs. I'm making dinner, honey, why don't you watch TV? Naruto said with a smile at her. Himawari looked at them curiously at this. What are you all talking about? She asked curiously. We're discussing what school we're gonna send you dash, Lee was saying before he was cut off. I don't wanna study. Himawari yelled out as she waved her arms around in defiance. Honey, you have to go to school, Naruto said calmly as he didn't expect this reaction. I don't wanna. Himawari yelled as she shook her head. Everyone has to go to school, Naruto said, trying to appeal to her. Did you? Himawari asked curiously. Naruto paused at this and started to sweat, as while he had studied up through the high school curriculum back at the orphanage, he didn't exactly go through normal school. Himawari mentally cheered at this as she read his mind, thinking she had one. You know, there is a college near us, Naruto, maybe you could go to school too, said a good example, Shikamaru said with a slight smirk at Naruto, that will teach you for throwing stuff at me, he thought. Adults can go to school. Himawari asked with wide eyes at this. Naruto, seeing a chance to convince his daughter to go, decided to take his chance. "Okay Hima, I'll make you a deal, you go to school, I'll go to school," he said. "I want some new toys for my room too," Himawari said in what she thought was a firm tone, but it just made her look cute. This made Naruto, Lee and Shikamaru chuckle at this. "Deal, now go watch TV," Naruto said with a smile at his daughter. "Yay! You get new friends, Shikaku," Himawari yelled as she hugged her stuffed tanuki before she ran over to the TV and turned it on. Lee chuckled at this as he cooked the spaghetti sauce, already a negotiator like her dad. "Next thing you know she will be a world-class thief like him too," he thought. Himawari paused at this as she had caught Lee's stray thought with her telepathy, a world-class thief. Cool, she thought in excitement. Naruto looked at Shikamaru with an annoyed look at this. "Thanks Shikamaru," he said with a sarcastic tone. "Oh, don't be a baby, going to school could be good for you in between other jobs," Shikamaru said, waving his hand dismissively. "Yeah, plus who knows, maybe you will find a mom for Himawari at the college," Lee said with a grin as he finished the sauce. Naruto shook his head at this but chuckled as he wasn't opposed to that. With Sam, Alex, and Clover. Sam, Alex and Clover were in their penthouse paid for by Jerry, eating some takeout after a day of classes, when suddenly all three of them sneezed as if someone was talking about them. With Naruto. Naruto was driving the orange Camaro to the college where Shikamaru had said he needed to get his class schedule. Today Himawari was staying at home with Shikamaru and Lee since Naruto and her still had the interview for her school tomorrow. And, here it is with 30 minutes to spare before class starts, Naruto said as he parked his car in the parking lot. As he got out of his car unnoticed to him, Sam, Alex, and Clover were running towards the school. "I swear Clover, if we're late for class because you overslept," Sam yelled as she looked over her shoulder at Clover, who was close behind her along with Alex. "Sam, watch out," Alex yelled, pointing ahead. But she was too late as Sam crashed into Naruto, knocking them both over and sending them both to the ground. "Ouch, bad luck," Alex said with a wince seeing this. "Yes, Sam found a cute guy first," Clover said with a pout seeing Naruto as he shook his head after his fall. "Ugh, bad day," Naruto groaned as he held his head before he looked at the three spies and mentally froze. "Oh, you better be kidding me," he thought, recognizing them as the three Whoop agents he had encountered the other night in Paris. Sam shook her head after her fall and looked at Naruto before she paused in surprise, seeing him blushing a little at seeing his blue eyes before she shook her head and composed herself. "Sorry about that, we were running late to class and I wasn't looking where I was going," she said with a sheepish tone. "It's alright, I'm fine, are you fine?" Naruto asked as he got up and held out his hand to Sam. "You definitely are fine," Clover said with a smile as she checked Naruto out before Alex nudged her in the rib. Sam took Naruto's hand and he easily pulled her to her feet. "Thanks, I'm Sam and these are my best friends Alex and Clover," she said, introducing her friends who waved at Naruto. "Name's Naruto Uzumaki, good to meet you all, I'm actually registering today," Naruto said, introducing himself. "Little late for that, isn't it?" Alex asked curiously. "Well, I just moved to town, but thankfully they were very understanding of my situation. Now if you excuse me ladies," Naruto said with a smile as he walked away from the three girls. Sam, Alex and Clover waved goodbye while smiling at him as he walked away. "Girl, you are so lucky you got a first feel of that bod of his," Clover said with a grin at Sam. "Clover," Sam said, blushing slightly. "Well, he is pretty cute," Alex said with a smile at the walking away Naruto. "I'm gonna prank Shikamaru hard for putting me in the same school as those Whoop agents," Naruto thought to himself, as while they were nice enough, he knew regular encounters with them was just asking for trouble if he wanted to keep him and his team's activities a secret. Later, Naruto was walking into a big classroom for his next class, which was the history of ancient cultures, and as he was looking for a seat, "Naruto," a familiar voice yelled out, getting his attention. Naruto froze a little before he turned and spotted Sam, who had her book ready, Alex, who was sleeping on her book, and Clover, who was adjusting her hair in hair. "You girls are taking this class?" Naruto asked curiously as he approached them and sat down next to Sam. "Sam made us," Alex said, looking up from her nap. Which I'm now thankful for, Clover said with a smile as she moved from her seat and moved to sit on Naruto's other side. Sam sighed at her friend's actions at this before she looked at Naruto. I'm surprised to see you in this class. Well, I have always been a fan of ancient cultures, Naruto said as he took out his book as the professor approached the front of the class. Sam smiled and nodded in approval at this as the class started. Later. Naruto was now walking towards his next class. Besides having to watch for those agents, this might not be so bad, Naruto thought before he looked at his schedule at what his next class was, a surfing class. What the hell? He thought, wondering why that was on his schedule. Before he could muse about this anymore, his phone rang, and when he looked at it he saw what looked like a picture of a sleeping Shikamaru. Hello. Naruto said, answering the phone. I signed you up for surfing class because you should learn, so you can teach Hima at some point, Shikamaru said with a bored tone over the phone. Are you watching me? Naruto asked as he looked around himself for any cameras or drones. Always, I see those Whoop agents are classmates of yours and one's a redhead too. Lucky, Shikamaru said with a fake enthusiastic tone. Keep it up, I may be a dad now but I'm not above pranking you like the old days, Naruto said with a grin as he walked. Speaking of which, I have yours and Hima's interview at Eden set up for tomorrow, Shikamaru said calmly. Thank you, how is she by the way? Naruto asked as he made his way into A. She has Lee showing her his strong fist style. Little Sqr thinks he's like Son Goku, Shikamaru said with a chuckle. Naruto chuckled at this. She's not that far off, he's as hard-headed as Goku, he said as he reminisced about all the training Lee did as a kid. Goku never wore green spandex and tinted about youth, Shikamaru said with a flat tone. Naruto shuddered at this reminder. Thanks for that, I thought I had locked that up tight in my memory bank. No problem, Shikamaru said with an amused tone before he hung up. Naruto rolled his eyes at this before he put away his phone and entered the locker room to get changed for his surfing class. With Clover. Clover was sitting in her surfing class wearing her red one-piece swimsuit, listening to the teacher talking about the math behind waves, bored out of her mind before she saw Naruto running over wearing an orange beach shirt and black swim trunks. Oh wow, Clover muttered as she checked Naruto out a bit and smiled a little, glad to see him. Sorry I'm late, got lost, Naruto said to the teacher as he sat down in the sand. It's alright, Uzumaki right? The teacher asked, noticing he was the only student that hadn't shown up on time. That's me, Naruto said with a smile. You know anything about surfing, my fellow blonde? The teacher asked with a friendly smile. No, but I figured if I'm gonna live in California I should learn, right? Naruto said with a nervous chuckle, getting some chuckles from the other students. Well, we are about to all pair off and catch some waves, so let's see if we can find you a part dash, the teacher was saying before he was cut off. I'll take him. Clover yelled, raising her hand and take this chance to get close to Naruto. Well, there you go, the teacher said with a shrug before he started to pass out boards to everyone. You know how to surf, Clover? Naruto asked as he took an orange surfboard. Please, I grew up in Cali, so don't worry Whiskers, you're in good hands, Clover said with a flirty wink and a smile at Naruto. Alright then, teach me milady, Naruto said with a nervous chuckle as he and Clover approached the beach. Later. Naruto was walking to his car with his backpack and sighed as he placed it in the back seat before he spotted Alex approaching the parking lot. Something wrong? Alex asked curiously, having saw him sigh. No, I'm fine, you seem stressed though, what's wrong with you? Naruto asked curiously. My basket weaving class didn't go so well today, Alex said with a sheepish grin as she rubbed the back of her head. They really have classes for anything in the States, Naruto said with a chuckle. Hey, not to be a bother, but do you think you could give me a ride to the mall? I missed the bus and don't feel like calling an Uber, Alex asked. No problem, it's not too far, is it? Naruto asked as he got into the driver's seat of his car. No, I usually walk, but I need to meet Sam and Clover there quickly. What's the rush? Is there a sale? Naruto asked as Alex got into the passenger seat. Most likely Clover is the shopper, not me, Alex said with a chuckle as Naruto started the car and pulled out of the parking lot. Not a shopper, eh? Naruto asked as he focused on the road. I like it fine, but I'm more a outdoors kind of girl, or if you want to be blunt, a tomboy, Alex said, shrugging. I'm a bit of an outdoorsy type myself, Naruto said with a chuckle. Alex smiled at this as she found it easy to talk to Naruto. The next day. It was Saturday, and today Naruto was taking Himawari to Eden Academy for their interview to get her into school. Naruto was driving his car and Himawari was sitting in the back seat buckled up for safety, wearing a spring coat and holding her stuffed tanuki. Are you nervous? Naruto asked as he parked the car and looked back at her. No, Himawari said before squeezing her tanuki tightly. Naruto chuckled at this, seeing she was trying to act tough. It's okay, they just want to talk to us, you just be yourself, and if you're a good girl we can go visit the park when we are done, he said as he pointed at a park across the street from the academy after helping her out of the car. Oh, Himawari said, her eyes widening in wonder as she looked at the big park. Naruto chuckled at this before he held her hand and led her towards the academy. Soon they were waiting in a hallway outside an office door. Himawari looked around and looked at what looked like a massive trophy case and saw it was full of trophies and pictures of what looked like past students of the academy. I think they are past students of the school, sweetie, Naruto said, seeing her curiously looking at the trophies. Himawari looked at Naruto, who was looking at the case curiously. They actually use real gold in these things. Talk about extravagant, he thought, which she also heard. Is this a rich people school? Himawari asked curiously as she knew rich people had gold. Naruto chuckled at this and patted her on the head, but before he could answer the office door opened, revealing an older man with gray hair wearing a brown suit. Technically, my dear, I would like to think we're a school of excellence which includes all kinds of people, not just the rich, though we do have lots of wealthy alumni, he said with a kind tone as he smiled at Himawari. Hiruzen Sarutobi? Naruto asked, wondering if this was the headmaster Shikamaru had told him about. That's me. Hello there, little one, what's your name? He asked the young girl with a smile. Himawari Uzumaki, I'm 6 years old and I really hope I can go to this school, Himawari said as if she had been practicing this speech. Ah, the Uzumakis of the Japan Uzumakis? Sarutobi asked, looking at Naruto curiously. Naruto nodded at this as he patted Himawari on the head. Great SK up, he thought, annoyed as he was used to well-off people sucking up to him when they found out he was a Uzumaki. I am happy to hear that you're doing okay after your parents sadly passed and raising your own child now, Sarutobi said as he smiled kindly at Naruto before he looked at Himawari. Now why don't we go into office and see if we can get you set up as a student, he asked. So she's in? Naruto asked, surprised it was this easy. You donated a building, plus you're from a prestigious and respected family, Mr. Uzumaki. I'm sure your child will thrive and grow here in our school, Sarutobi said as he led them inside his office to fill out some paperwork. Naruto smiled at this, but inside he was laughing. Respected? The Uzumakis have been robbing other thieves blind since the feudal era, he thought to himself. Himawari's eyes widened at what she had just read, as while she had heard that her dad was a world-traveling thief, she didn't know he came from a family of thieves. So cool, she thought excitedly as she ran into the office and sat down. Naruto and Sarutobi chuckled at this, thinking she was excited to start school. Later, Naruto and Himawari walked hand in hand towards a nearby park, taking in the green scenery. They soon arrived at the playground where they began to have some fun. I want to go on the swing, Himawari said with a smile as she looked up at Naruto. Naruto smiled and nodded at this as he brought Himawari onto the swing and pushed her on it, causing her to laugh with joy. Higher, Papa. Himawari laughed as Naruto put more force into his push, making her cry out with joy. Soon Himawari was at the slide, wanting to try that out. Naruto watched as Himawari slid down the slide right into his arms, lifting her up on her shoulder. After some time they went to a nearby bench. I'll be back, Himawari, Naruto said, walking off to get some snacks. As Himawari kicked her feet about, she felt her tummy rumbling and looked around to notice a table nearby where a trio of girls were chatting it up, but what kept her attention most was a large bag of cookies. Time for Phantom Thief Himawari to pull of a heist, Himawari thought, raising her finger ready to get to action. The blue-haired girl moved around the shrubs and trees stealthy. She kept her eyes on the prize. She hid by a nearby trash can as she made her way to the table. Man, you should have seen Naruto in my surfing class talk about a major hottie. Clover said with a giggle. So you're overmasked Romeo now? Alex chuckled at this. Of course not, I can daydream about two cuties can't I, dot. Clover said with a smile as she liked to keep her options open at least for now. Can we stop bringing up that guy? Sam said annoyed as she didn't like that Kurama had gotten one over on them so easily. You know you liked him. Clover said reaching for a cookie only to find the bag was gone surprising her. Huh? Where did our cookies go? Alex asked also seeing that the bag was gone. Clover did you eat them all? Sam asked with an accusing look at her blonde friend. It wasn't me. I barely had two and those were from the best bakery in Beverly Hills, Clover said as she looked around for the missing bag. Maybe it was a squirrel some of those had nuts in them, Alex said with a smile as she helped Clover look for the bag. Before Sam could say anything she heard what sounded like crunching sounds coming from under their picnic table. She signaled to Alex and Clover who nodded and surrounded the table and then they all got on one knee and looked under the table to see. Himawari said looking and seeing them looking at her eating the cookies her face covered in crumbs and chocolate smudges. Hey! Those are our cookies. Clover yelled in surprise seeing this. Well it's not a squirrel, Sam said with a chuckle. It's better. It's adorable. Alex yelled with a smile at the little girl. I'm busted. Cheese it. Himawari yelled as she tried to run through Sam's legs but she was grabbed by the back of her coat and picked up. Hey there, come, ow, Sam grunted as Himawari threw her tanuki plush toy at her. Get her Kaku. Himawari yelled as she swung her arms in defiance as the toy fell to the ground. Aw she has a stuffed raccoon too, Alex said with a smile as she picked up the stuffed toy. She ate all our cookies. Clover said as she held up the empty bag, I can't believe a kid snuck by us we're spies for crying out loud. Clover thought in annoyance. Himawari stopped struggling at this and looked at Sam Alex and Clover surprised spies. Like in my cartoons. So cool, she thought as she looked at the three girls with awe. Himawari. Where are you? Naruto called out getting their attention. I'm just hanging around Papa. Himawari called out getting Naruto's attention who spotted them. Papa? Sam asked in surprise as she put Himawari down who ran to Naruto. Hey girls I see you met my daughter, Himawari. Why is your face covered in crumbs? Naruto asked as he took out a napkin and wiped her face clean. I had cookies, Himawari said simply as Naruto finished cleaning her face. More like stole, Clover grumbled under her breath before Alex elbowed her stomach. Naruto heard this and looked at Himawari with a firm look. Himawari, is that true? He asked. Himawari frowned at this but looked away and started to fiddle with her fingers nervously. It's okay, she's just a kid, Alex said quickly, not wanting Himawari to get yelled at. Sam frowned at this as she didn't want a kid to get yelled at either but didn't want Himawari to get away with stealing. Naruto thought for a few moments before he sighed. Okay Himawari, you're not having dessert for 3 days and you're gonna apologize to my 3 friends here, he said firmly. Yes Papa, Himawari said with a nod as she turned to look at Sam Alex and Clover. I'm sorry I got caught dash. Himawari, Naruto said with a firm tone as he bit his tongue trying not to snort at this. I'm sorry I stole your cookies, Himawari said bowing her head at Sam Alex and Clover. Sam smiled at this and nodded before she patted her on the head. It's okay, you should try asking next time. Alex nodded at this with a smile. Yeah, a cute little girl like you shouldn't have to steal, she said. Sam looked at Clover who was looking at Himawari who looked back at her nervously. Clover, say you forgive her, she said firmly. Yeah, she's just a kid, kids are supposed to mess up so they learn, Alex said with a comforting smile at Himawari. Clover sighed at this. Okay, I forgive you kid, but you owe me. Those cookies were from the best bakery in Beverly Hills, she said with a teasing smile. I'll take care of it, Clover, don't worry, Naruto said with a nod as he knew as her parent he had to make up for her mistakes. So you're an actual dad? I had no clue, Sam asked curiously as Naruto handed Himawari some juice and a baggie of fruit snacks before she ran off to the playground. Yeah, I decided to move here with her to give her a better life and my friends convinced me to go to school while I'm at it, Naruto said as he sat down at the picnic table with the girls so he could watch Himawari. Ah, that's so responsible, Alex said with a smile along with Sam and Clover. Yeah, I have more to do though. I just got her into school now. I need to get her school uniform, more regular clothes. Naruto was listing off before he was cut off. Toys. Himawari yelled from the playground. And toys, Naruto said with a smile and a nod remembering his promise to her. What school you sending her to? Sam asked curiously. I got her into Eden, Naruto said casually as if talking about the weather. Clover nodded at this before her eyes widened in shock. Eden, she asked surprised. That a big deal? Alex asked curiously. It's the most exclusive school in California. The elite of the world send their kids there. How did you get her in? Clover asked Naruto in shock. I donated a building, Naruto said with a sheepish chuckle. This got surprised looks from the three secret spies. Yeah, it was a high price but I want the best education for her, Naruto said as he watched Himawari go down a slide happily. Sam, Alex and Clover lied at this as they could respect that. You know, if you want we could try helping you get her ready for school, Sam said. Naruto looked at Sam with a raised eyebrow at this. I wouldn't want to dash. Oh, I could help her shop for clothes. Clover yelled with a bright smile. I could teach her how boys work, Alex said with a smile. No boys. Naruto yelled without thinking, surprising the girls and himself. Aw, we have a overprotective father, Sam said with a giggle at Naruto's reaction. DMN straight, Naruto grumbled under his breath. That's adorable, Alex said with a giggle along with the other girls. Naruto coughed into his fist at this. Anyway, we have the weekend, so if you want to help we can go shopping tomorrow, he said as he composed himself. Sam nodded at this. Sounds good, let's all trade contact information so you can give us your address. It doesn't have a doorman, does it? Clover asked with a teasing grin. Sister please, Naruto said as he rolled his eyes as he got out his phone. Papa, the sun setting. Himawari yelled out as she pointed at the sky. Indeed it is okay Hima, let's head home, Uncle Lee is making meatloaf, Naruto said as he stood up. Yay! Himawari yelled as she ran to Naruto and hugged his leg. Uncle? Sam asked curiously. Oh, my two best friends are practically my brothers, they live near us and are helping me too, Naruto said as he patted Himawari on the head. Unkai Lee cooks real good and Unkai Shika is a real smart bottom and makes Papa pull his hair out. Himawari said with a smile at Sam, Alex and Clover. This made Alex and Clover giggle at what Himawari obviously meant while Sam looked at Naruto with a raised eyebrow. He's smart but drives me nuts with smart comments, Naruto said with a sheepish chuckle before he looked at Himawari. Okay Hima, let's head home, say goodbye to Sam, Alex and Clover. Bye-bye Papa's new friends. Himawari yelled before she ran off with Naruto to his car. Sam, Alex, and Clover waved at Naruto and Himawari before Naruto drove off. You know, I usually wouldn't go for a guy with a kid but she kinda grows on you, Clover said with a chuckle. Oh please, you see yourself as a mom? Sam asked with a raised eyebrow, not buying this for a moment. Either of us make a great mom, especially for that little cutie, Alex said as she smiled as they all gathered their stuff and left the park. But as they left the park, a hydrant suddenly opened and sucked all three of them up. DMN it Jerry, all three spies yelled as they all were sucked in before the hydrant closed behind them. Later with Naruto. It was now night time and Naruto had just put Himawari to bed after dinner and was now talking to Shikamaru and Lee. So you're gonna have those spies help with getting Himawari set up with school supplies this weekend? Lee asked curiously. Yeah, they seemed pretty nice and Himawari liked them, so it shouldn't hurt to have them help. Plus you can't pick out girls' clothes worth a DMN, Shikamaru said with a flat tone as he looked at his laptop. That too, anyway what are you looking at? Naruto asked his friend. New target. The Uchiha family is moving a high-value object that should be of some interest to you, Shikamaru said as he turned his laptop around to show Naruto and Lee an image of what looked like a old ornate necklace that looked like a kitsune's head. Naruto's eyes widened at this before he smiled brightly. Finally now I can steal back my family heirloom and we can really make a splash, he said with a bright grin while Lee gave him a thumbs up and Shikamaru nodded in agreement. Nothing shall stop us from taking back what is yours, Lee said determined to help Naruto getting that necklace back. Just make sure we're back in time to get Himawari's school supplies, Naruto said to Shikamaru who was already typing away to make the plan. On it Father of the Year, Shikamaru said as he looked at his laptop. DMN straight, Naruto said with a nod and a smile. With Sam, Alex and Clover. The trio of spies were sitting on a couch looking at Jerry who was looking at them from his desk while the jet they were on was taking them to their destination. So what's the job this time, Je? Alex asked with a smile at their boss. You make it quick, we have to get back home to help a friend with school shopping, Clover said looking up from her phone which she was using to look up the latest fashions for kids. Helping a friend find clothes for college is more important than your job? Jerry asked curiously thinking their friend was someone from their school. No, we're helping a friend buy school clothes for his daughter, Sam said explaining the situation. Yeah, and he's single and probably has zero clue about fashion for a little girl, Clover said with a smile as she looked at her phone. And she's so cute. Alex said with a smile of her own. Jerry chuckled at this, finding this amusing before he focused on the task at hand. Well, for now let's focus on your next mission which involves protecting this from an old acquaintance of yours, he said as the screen behind him turned on showing an image of what looked like an old ornate necklace that looked like a kitsune head. What is it? Alex asked curiously as they all looked at the picture of the necklace. And who do we know that is after it? Clover asked curiously. It is an old necklace that has been lost for some time that has just recently resurfaced thanks to the Uchiha Foundation, Jerry explained. They fund expeditions into finding old ruins and fossils and all kinds of stuff, Sam said as she had heard of this foundation. Yes, the Uchiha family and their foundation has been excavating old ruins and artifacts for years. As for who is after their latest find, Jerry said as he pushed a button on a remote he had which changed the image on a screen to what looked like a picture of a note. I will be taking back my family's artifact from you within the next day, sincerely Kurama, Sam read before she glared slightly as she read the name on the note. Yes. Another chance to get that cutie's number. Clover said with an excited smile and hearts in her eyes. Oh geez down girls, Alex said with a nervous smile at Sam who was growling in anger and Clover who was getting excited. The necklace in question is being moved to a secure collection to be analyzed on a train in the Alps which has high security, Jerry said as the screen changed showing an image of a train which showed several armed guards with shock batons guarding a room with a box with the kitsune necklace in it. And let me guess you want us to be there to intercept Kurama when he shows up? Sam asked Jerry. Your gadgets for this will need the jetpack, the good shooting lipstick and the movement sensing goggles, Jerry said as a compartment opened behind the spies. The spies all tool their gadgets and put them on ready to go. You sure these won't glitch out this time? Alex asked curiously as she put the goggles on. I have been assured that Kurama's tech support's EMP trick won't work this time. Now stay alert, we're arriving over the train girls, Jerry said with a firm tone as he looked at the window. Okay spies, let's do this so that the thief isn't getting away this time. Sam said with a determined look as she led the way to the door. Well, not before I can get his number at least, Clover said with a smile. Alex chuckled nervously at this before they all jumped out of the jet activating their jetpacks and flying down towards the train below. With Naruto. Naruto, who was in a disguise which consisted of a black wig and makeup to cover his whisker marks, was sitting in his cabin on the train looking out the window at the passing by mountain range passed by. I'm on the train, over. Naruto whispered into his earpiece. We know, over, Shikamaru said with a bored tone of voice. Way to stay professional, Lee said sounding amused. I'd get hurrying, your 10-minute window opens, now, over. Shikamaru said. Stand by elk and beast, Naruto said as he stood up and walked out of his cabin and made his way into the back of the train. When he made it to the door which led to the train car he hid to the side and peeked through the window and saw that the security inside were all knocked out and with them was a figure wearing what looked like a green jumpsuit gi complete with a belt that had a etching of on it which was a kanji that stood for Goken or strong fist. He was also wearing a green hood and what looked like a mask which had a etching of what looked like the face of a turtle on it. Naruto smiled at this and entered the room. Not bad beast, a whole squad dealt with within 4 minutes, he said as he entered. Darn. I was going for 3. Lee said with a disappointed tone of voice. On the clock you two, you're gonna have company soon, Shikamaru said over their earpieces. Right, Lee said as he tossed Naruto a bag which he took and opened seeing his Kurama outfit which he took out and quickly put on. He then approached the chest and took out a lock pick and started to attempt to pick the lock. Your company is on top of you. Shikamaru yelled over their earpieces as the roof to the cabin started melt away as something was cutting a hole through it. Beast, deal with them, I need 60 seconds, Naruto said as he kept his eyes on the lock. Lee nodded at this and took a ready stance just as the hole opened and Sam, Alex, and Clover dropped into the room. Freeze! Sam yelled as she and her friends took ready stances as they landed in the room. I think we have the wrong guy, Sam, Alex said as they all looked at Lee who held his arm out in a come-on gesture. The whoop spies my friend Kurama dealt with before, my apologies, he's dealing with something behind me so I will be your opponent today, you may call me Beast, Lee said with a friendly tone but his mask was changing his voice slightly so it echoed. You call yourself Beast and use a turtle mask? Alex asked curiously. Yeah, not exactly a good theme, Clover said finding this to be a really big clash of tones. Focus. Ignore him and get Kurama before he takes the kitsune necklace. Sam yelled as she ran at Lee. But Lee instantly took a swing at her making her block with her forearm before she jumped back. You'll have to get past me first, and I ain't making it easy. Lee said with a firm tone. You are outnumbered, turtle boy. Clover yelled as Alex and Sam attacked Lee together. But Lee easily maneuvered around their attacks and blocked their attacks before he spun around slamming his leg into Sam's side sending her into Alex and Clover and sending them all into the wall. I must say you are all very well trained and work well together but the springtime of my youth is brighter than your teamwork. Lee yelled as he struck a pose and gave a thumbs up. We're getting our butts kicked by a goofball. Clover groaned out as they all struggled to get up. He's not gonna stop us. Sam yelled as she took out her lipstick ready to fire some capture goo at Lee. But before she could fire it a smoke bomb was thrown over Lee's shoulder at them which engulfed the 3 spies. You undid the lock in less than a minute, very good Kurama, Lee said with a happy tone as Naruto approached them. Please, it was easy, Naruto said as he held up the kitsune necklace in his hand. You're not getting away. Sam yelled as she ran out of the smoke holding her lipstick. But before she could fire it Naruto quickly chopped her in the wrist making her drop it which he caught before spinning around and firing the lipstick at Sam which fired some capture goop at her which slammed into her Alex and Clover. Oh come on. Sam yelled out growling in frustration at this turn of events. No. It's in my hair. Clover yelled in horror as she tried to get loose. Priorities, Clover. Alex yelled as she also tried to get loose. Sorry ladies, but this belongs to my family and I'm taking it back, Naruto said as he dropped the lipstick at the spy's feet. More backup is coming, get moving. Shikamaru yelled over their earpieces. Naruto and Lee nodded at this and quickly jumped out the hole in the roof. DMN it. Sam yelled out just as more security guards entered the room. With Naruto and Lee. Naruto and Lee ran down the train as it passed over a bridge where their getaway van was parked. Naruto and Lee both jumped off the train and both fired grappling hooks from their wrists and swung down under the bridge and through the open door of the van. You're both late, Shikamaru said with a flat tone from his seat in the back of the van where he was looking at his computer screen. Just by a second, Naruto said as he moved to the front passenger seat and Lee moved to the driver's seat. Let's get moving before we have more Whoop agents show up, Shikamaru said as Lee hit the gas driving the van out the bridge and away from the area. Did you get the goods? Shikamaru asked as he kept his eye on his laptop screen. Don't I always? Naruto said showing the necklace in his hand. Yup, and we will be back in time to meet up with your friends to get Hima's school supplies, Lee said with a smile. Hopefully they aren't late after you stuck them to the wall with their own gadget, Shikamaru said with an amused tone as he looked at footage of Sam, Alex and Clover being freed from the capture goop by the train security. Watch the hair, you rent a cop. Clover was heard yelling over the footage. Ouch, I think you made that one mad, Lee said to Naruto, wincing after hearing this. Naruto sheepishly chuckled at this and made a mental note to try and find a way to make this up to Clover in some way. The next day. It was Saturday and Naruto and Himawari were in his car in the parking lot on front of the mall. Oh, a shopping mall. Himself yelled excitedly as she looked at the mall with wide eyes. Yep, are you excited to get your school clothes and supplies? Naruto asked as he opened the door and let her out of the car. And toys. Himawari yelled as she jumped out of the car. Naruto chuckled at this as he closed the back door and activated the car alarm. Stay with me, Sam, Alex or Clover. Hima, you don't want to get lost in the mall, he said as he held out his hand to Himawari. Yes, Papa, Himawari said as she took his hand and they both walked towards the mall. As they walked through the sliding doors of the mall, Himawari looked around in wonder at all the different stores and the food court nearby. Naruto chuckled at this before he spotted Sam, Alex and Clover waiting at a table nearby and noticed Clover brushing her hair while scowling. Will you relax, Clover? Sam asked as Naruto and Himawari approached their table. Yeah, you look fine, Alex said before she smiled seeing Himawari. Hey sweetie, have you eaten? No, and I'm hungry, Himawari said before she looked at Naruto with big begging eyes. Alex, can you take her to get something from the food court? Naruto asked, instantly breaking. Alex smiled at this and took Himawari's hand and pulled her to the food court. Yay! Himawari cheered, smiling at Alex. No sweets. You have a day left of your punishment, Naruto yelled after them. Himawari pouted at this as Alex patted her on the head. So what happened to your hair? Naruto asked Clover as he sat down at the table. Accident at work, Clover said with a scowl as she brushed her hair. Yeah, some jackass got some gum in her hair, Sam said with a scowl of her own. Naruto chuckled nervously at this, seeing that both spies really didn't like his alter ego, but he composed himself and looked at Clover. Don't worry about it, Clover, you look fantastic like always, he said with a kind smile at the blonde. Clover stopped brushing her hair at this and smiled at Naruto, but before she could say anything Alex put a pizza box on the table, getting their attention. Pizza? Sam asked, seeing what Alex had bought. Himawari insisted, Alex said as she helped said coiled into her seat next to Naruto. I wanna try it. I heard pizza is like okonomiyaki. Himawari said with a smile as Alex opened the pizza box and got out a slice of pizza for her. Oko what? Clover asked with a raised eyebrow at Himawari as she took her pizza. Japanese pizza, Naruto and Sam said together as they both took a slice of pizza. Himawari grunted as she tried to eat it, but it kept flopping in her hand, making some of the pepperoni fall off with the cheese plopping on her plate. Here sweetie, like this, Sam said as she held out her slice and showed Himawari how to fold her pizza. Oh, you're smart, Himawari said as she mimicked what Sam showed her. Straight as since grade school SQR, Clover said with a chuckle. You excited to start school? Sam asked Himawari while ignoring Clover. I don't like to study, Himawari said with a frown as she thought back to the lab she was raised in and how the doctors there made her do nothing but study and not let her play. Sam, Alex and Clover raised an eyebrow at this, finding this a little curious. Hey, it's okay honey, just do your best with your work and if you need help ask, Naruto said kindly to Himawari. Sam smiled at Naruto at this and nodded, exactly, and if you ever need help I can definitely help you, so don't worry, okay, she said kindly to the little girl. Himawari looked at Sam for a moment and read her mind, seeing she was telling the truth, and nodded at her. Okay, now eat up, we have some shopping to do, Clover said with a smile at her. Yeah, and we have some things to teach you too, Alex said, also smiling at Himawari. Himawari nodded at this before she took a bite of her folded pizza, before her eyes widened at the taste, before she smiled brightly and started to eat excitedly, making a mess and sending sauce flying. Hima, slow down, you're not an animal, Naruto said with a chuckle as he grabbed a napkin to clean her face. Later. After finishing their pizza, the group had went to several school supply stores after Himawari had insisted on her supplies being cute. Which of course Alex had insisted on, so she had dragged them all to another school supply store which had more stylized supplies. Sam had also helped them get Himawari's books, making sure she had the best sources of information. And of course Clover was now helping Himawari find school clothes while Naruto, Sam and Alex watched. Is having her model them necessary? Naruto asked Clover from his seat. Don't hate me because I'm appealing, Papa, Himawari said with a bright smile as she wore some sunglasses while wearing an outfit which consisted of a t-shirt with a cartoon fox on it and a skirt with black leggings. She was also wearing a blue backpack. Clover smiled brightly at this, feeling pride at seeing this. No sunglasses, Naruto said firmly while Sam and Alex carried some clothes to the checkout counter. Himawari pouted cutely at this while Clover took the sunglasses from her. Later. After putting all of their purchases in Naruto's car, the group were now walking towards one of the biggest stores in the mall. The toy store. Himawari said with an excited smile as she held Naruto's hand as he walked with her, with Sam, Alex and Clover close behind. Remember, just a few toys, sweetie, Naruto said firmly but with a smile as he led her towards the toy store. Are you not used to getting new toys, Hima? Sam asked the little girl curiously. Nah, I didn't get a lot of new toys back in the orphanage before Papa adopted me, Himawari said as she shook her head as they all entered the toy store. Sam, Alex and Clover paused at this before they looked at Naruto curiously. Oh, can one of you girls take Himawari down one of the aisle while I explain to the others? Naruto asked. I'll do it, come on Hima, Alex said with a nod and a smile at Himawari. Okay big sis, Himawari said as she took Alex's hand and was led down the aisle. So she's adopted? Clover asked curiously. Yeah, what of it? Naruto asked with a very slight edge in his voice. Clover raised her hands at this, showing she meant no harm. We don't mean anything, we just didn't expect a college student to adopt a child, Sam said, wanting to be clear they didn't mean any harm. Better than just leaving her all alone, Naruto said firmly, as while he knew Tsunde's orphanage wasn't the worst thanks to him and his team's donations, but he still felt like all orphan kids should have a chance at being adopted. Sam noticed Name was a little annoyed at this and frowned. If this is a sore subject, we're sorry, she said. Yeah, she's still your kid from what I see, Clover said with a shrug as Himawari being adopted didn't mean anything to her. Naruto sighed at this as he calmed himself. It's fine, I'm just a little testy about this because I was an orphan growing up too, but I didn't get adopted, he said, deciding to explain to them why this was a sore subject. Sam and Alex's eyes widened at this before they both looked at each other and frowned. So while I was visiting my old orphanage, I saw her alone there, so I decided to adopt her, Naruto said, explaining himself. Sam and Clover nodded at this, understanding Naruto now. Now let's go save my wallet, Naruto said with a chuckle, deciding to lighten up the mood a bit. Good luck, Alex can't say no to kids, Clover said with a chuckle as they all walked down a toy aisle to look for Alex and Himawari. After a few moments of looking, they soon spotted Himawari and Alex in a section of the store which had items which were all locked up in glass cases, and Himawari and Alex were in front of what looked like a video demo of what looked like a video game demo. Oh! Himawari said as she pressed her face up against the glass. What's the matter, never seen a video game before? Alex asked with a smile. Miss Tanuit had a game system back at the orphanage, but the older kids hogged it, Himawari said, looking away from the glass before she put her face back to the glass. Video games are toys now? Naruto asked curiously as he looked around at the area at all the different games and accessories. Alex, you couldn't show her more traditional toys? Sam asked Alex as she shook her head. I did, and she picked a few, but once she spotted the Mario display she ran over here, Alex said as she pointed to a nearby cart which had some toys inside it. Papa, look, it's Mario. Himawari said with a smile as she pointed at the demo on the TV of a Mario game being played. Yes, I see that, honey. Naruto said with a smile as he patted her on the head. Sorry about not distracting her from this area, Alex said with a sheepish look as she rubbed the back of her head. No, it's fine. If I'm honest, I was thinking of getting a game system dash, Naruto was saying before he was cut off. We're getting a game system. Yay! Himawari cheered as she raised her arms up in the air. Well, hold on, I don't know anything about games, especially the ones from today, so dash, Naruto was saying before again he was cut off. Alex is a gamer, Sam said with a smile at this. She is? Naruto and Himawari asked together, Himawari looking at Alex with wide eyes. Yeah, I can teach you things a parent should know, Alex said with a sheepish chuckle. Oh, thank God for you, Alex, Naruto said with a sigh of relief. So we're getting a SWCH? Himawari asked with a hopeful look on her face. Naruto looked at Himawari for a few moments before he sighed. Okay, Himawari, but you can't spend all day playing on that, he said firmly. Yay! Himawari said with an excited smile before she started to look at all the different games. She's not listening, Naruto said with a sigh. Don't worry, there are parental controls you can set up so she can't play games over a certain rating, and you can set up time limits, Alex said as she patted Naruto on the back. Naruto looked up at this surprised. They have a rating system for games now? He asked bewildered at this. Sam, Alex and Clover all chuckled at this before they all went to talk to a cashier and get them all set up with what they would need. Later back at Naruto's house, everyone was now inside and Shikamaru and Lee were talking to Naruto while Himawari was upstairs with Sam, Alex and Clover showing them her room while they helped her put away her new stuff. Why is half of this bill from the toy store video game stuff? Shikamaru asked as he looked at the receipt. 'Cause I'm weak, Naruto said with a sigh as he looked at the several bags in front of the TV in the living room. Well, you did want to play games as a kid, now's your chance, Lee said with a chuckle as he looked up from his work cooking in the kitchen. Ugh! Shikamaru said as he rolled his eyes. Don't ugh me, look at this face, Shika, can you say no to this face? Naruto asked as he lifted up a picture on his phone of Himawari's smiling face to look up at Shikamaru. Okay, put that away. It's worse than any weapon, Shikamaru yelled before he grumbled the last part. Hope you're ready to enforce time limits and the rating system on that thing, Lee said as he flipped the steak he was frying. Yeah, Alex gave me a crash course on that on the way home, Naruto said as he put away his phone. Please at least tell me you at least got her some games that's not just brain dead, Shikamaru said with a flat tone. Oh, don't be a sour puss, Unkai Shika, Naruto said as he rolled his eyes at his friend. Don't call me that, Shikamaru said with a flat tone at his friend using Himawari's name for him. Yeah, annoy Shikamaru, later dinner is ready. Lee yelled so he would be heard upstairs. Moments later Himawari ran downstairs with Sam, Alex and Clover close behind. You were up there a long time, Shikamaru said to Himawari as she climbed up to her seat at the dinner table. I was showing big sisters my room and they were giving me advice for school tomorrow, Himawari said with a smile. Oh, now you're excited for school? Naruto asked with a smile at his daughter as he helped Lee set the table while everyone else sat down. Well, you're going to school so I'm gonna suffer with you, Papa, Himawari said with a bright smile. This got a laugh from everyone before they all started to eat. The next day, Naruto and Himawari stood in front of Eden Academy. Himawari was all dressed in the academy's coat which had the school's emblem on the chest. Are you ready? Naruto asked as he walked with Himawari towards the school while holding her hand. Himawari nodded at this but looked nervous as they approached the school. Naruto paused at this and turned to look at Himawari. You okay, sweetie? Naruto asked his daughter curiously. My feet don't want to move. Himawari said as she started to shiver a bit from her fear. Naruto nodded at this and got on one knee and looked at Himawari in the eye. You don't need to be scared, honey, you just do your best, and if you don't understand something then ask your teacher for help, that's what they are there for. What if I'm not good enough and I make you look bad for being my papa? Himawari asked, frowning as looked at the ground. Naruto frowned at this before he patted Himawari on the head. You are fine, Himawari, you're my daughter and I care about you no matter what, you understand, he asked with a kind tone of voice. Himawari read Naruto's thoughts and saw that he wasn't lying at all, and her eyes widened at this before she smiled and nodded. Okay papa, I'll do my best, she said as she walked forward towards the door ready to start her first day of school. Naruto chuckled at this and followed her inside to make sure she knew where her classroom was before he headed to class himself. Later with Himawari. Himawari was sitting in her classroom at her desk looking around and saw that she was shrouded by 11 other desks which had other kids her own age who were all talking to each other about their weekend. Himawari looked sad seeing nobody was talking to her yet. Hey, you a new kid? A female voice asked, getting Himawari's attention. Himawari looked and saw it was a girl her own age with short black hair and violet eyes. She was approaching her desk with what looked like 2 other girls. Yes, I'm Himawari Uzumaki and this is my first day here, Himawari said, trying not to sound nervous. Wa. What kind of name is that? One of the girls with the girl with black hair asked before Ether started to giggle. Himawari frowned at this, feeling embarrassed as she read these girls' thoughts, seeing that they didn't like her already. It means sunshine candy. Why don't you and your minions pick up an actual book? A voice said, getting their attention. Himawari looked and saw the one who had talked was the student sitting at the desk next to her. It was a girl her age with short black hair and black eyes. She was looking at the girl named Candy with an annoyed look. Why don't you stay out of it, Uchiha? Candy asked with an annoyed tone as she looked at the girl who had just stood up to her. Or what? Another voice asked, getting their attention. Everyone looked at who had just spoke and saw it was another girl, this one slightly chubbier than the other girls with tan skin and red hair. She was also slightly taller than the other girls and glaring at Candy and her friends as she entered the classroom. Still being Uchiha's bodyguard Akimichi? Candy asked with a glare at this new girl. No, I'm being her friend, you would know if you had any real ones, the girl said with a glare. Candy glared back, but before she could say anything the door to the classroom opened and an adult entered the room. It was a male with brown hair and he had a scar across his nose. This was Irika Yumino, the teacher for this class. Okay, I know you're all excited to talk about your weekends, but it's time to get to your desks, Irika said with a kind smile at the kids who all quickly scrambled to their assigned desks. Oh, a scar. Is he an assassin when not teaching? Himawari thought to herself in wonder, seeing Irika's scar before he approached the blackboard and wrote on it with some chalk and wrote the words Mr. Yumino. Now I'm Mr. Yumino and I'm only writing this cause we have a new student joining our class today, Irika said with an encouraging smile as he looked at Himawari. Himawari froze at this as all the students looked at her. I think I prefer when they were ignoring me, she thought to herself. Would you like to introduce yourself? Irika asked curiously as he wanted to give Himawari a chance to introduce herself to the class. Himawari stood up from her desk and fiddled with her fingers a bit before she thought about what Naruto said about how she didn't need to be nervous and took a breath. My name is Himawari Uzumaki. I'm 6 years old. I like cinnamon rolls, playing outside, and hope to make friends and be a good student here, she said before she sat back down at her desk. The rest of the students all murmured to themselves at this before they all looked at Irika, who nodded at Himawari before starting today's class. So alright folks, that's all for today. Stay tuned for part 2. Do subscribe, like and share for more such videos. Also check out the story and author KFB Anime 87 on FANFICTIONnet. Press the bell icon to be notified first on release. See you in the next video. Till then, goodbye.